She sat at the wrong table. On a blind date, the stranger turned out to be a millionaire CEO. Hello, everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let us return to our main character. She thought it was just another awkward blind date, but the stranger sitting across from her would change her life forever. The soft hum of conversation filled the elegant Manhattan restaurant. Warm golden lights reflected off crystal glasses, and the quiet clinking of silverware sounded like music. Every guest looked polished, confident, expensive. But Emma Brooks did not belong here. She smoothed the folds of her second-hand dress and took a shaky breath, whispering to herself, "Table 7, table 7. Her eyes landed on a man sitting alone near the window, tall, dark-haired, dressed in a charcoal suit that looked effortless yet expensive. He was scrolling through his phone, unaware of her presence. Emma swallowed her nerves and walked toward him. "Hi," she said, forcing a bright smile. "You must be Kevin. I am Emma. Nice to meet you." The man looked up, slightly startled, but his expression softened almost immediately. Liam Parker had come here for a quiet dinner after a canceled meeting, not a blind date. Yet something about her nervous energy, her unpolished sincerity made him pause. For a reason he could not explain, he decided to play along. "Right," he said with a faint smile. "Nice to meet you too, Emma." She sat down quickly, clutching her menu like a lifeline. "Blind dates are weird, right? My friend Jenny swore you might be quiet, so I came prepared to talk for both of us." Liam hid a smile behind his glass of water. "Quiet might be an understatement," he said. Emma laughed softly, relief easing her shoulders. "Good. That means we balance each other." For a few minutes, the conversation drifted awkwardly but gently until he asked, "What do you do?" "I am a waitress," she admitted. "It is not glamorous, but it pays most of the bills. One day, I hope to open my own art studio." Her eyes brightened when she said it, and Liam found himself listening more closely than he had in years. "That sounds beautiful," he murmured. "And you?" she asked, leaning forward. He hesitated. "I work in tech," he said simply. It was true, though tech was an understatement for a man whose company dominated half of Silicon Valley. Emma nodded enthusiastically. "That is cool. Coding and apps and all that. I could never understand computers. They hate me." Liam chuckled quietly. Her honesty disarmed him. She had no idea who he was, and for the first time in a long time, he felt like he did not have to perform. They talked until her phone buzzed on the table. She glanced down and froze. A text from Kevin. "Hey, Emma. I am at table 7. Looking forward to meeting you." Her heart sank. Slowly, she looked up at Liam, horror dawning on her face. "You are not Kevin, are you?" Liam's smile faded into a look of gentle guilt. "No, I am not." "Oh my God." Emma shot to her feet, her cheeks burning. "I am so sorry. I cannot believe I just—" "Wait," Liam said, standing too. "It is all right, really." But she was already backing away, mortified. "I am so sorry," she repeated, grabbing her coat and rushing for the door. Liam watched her leave, the echo of her laughter still lingering in the air. He had meant to correct her from the start. Yet now, as the restaurant's hum returned to normal, he realized something strange he missed her already. That night, in his penthouse overlooking the glittering city, Liam Parker could not stop thinking about the girl who sat at the wrong table. She did not know his name, his company, or his money. She only knew his smile, and for a brief, impossible hour, it had felt real. The next morning, sunlight spilled across the city skyline, glinting off glass towers and waking Manhattan to another ordinary day. But for Liam Parker, nothing felt ordinary anymore. He had not slept. All night he kept replaying the moment when the girl with the shy smile and second-hand dress realized her mistake and ran out of the restaurant. He told himself to forget it. He was the CEO of Parker Technologies, not a man who chased chance encounters. Yet her voice echoed in his mind. He sat in his office on the 42nd floor, a wall of windows behind him and a stack of contracts in front. Claire, his efficient assistant, entered with her tablet. You have a conference call at 10, a meeting with the board at 1, and dinner with investors at 7. Cancel the dinner, Liam said, still staring out the window. Claire blinked. Everything all right, sir? He hesitated before answering. I met someone by accident last night. Claire smiled faintly. You, sir? That must have been quite an accident. Liam gave a quiet laugh. She thought I was someone else. Did you correct her? No, he admitted. And I do not know why. Across the city, Emma Brooks balanced a tray of coffee mugs in the small cafe where she worked mornings. Her hands trembled slightly as she poured a latte, trying not to think about the disaster of the previous night. Every time she remembered the look on that stranger's face, her stomach twisted. She had made a fool of herself. The real Kevin had messaged her later, apologizing for missing the date, but Emma had already deleted the app. Earth to Emma, her co-worker Lila teased, sliding another order slip onto the counter. You are zoning out again. Just tired, Emma said, forcing a smile. Lila leaned closer. Is this about that blind date? Tell me it was not that bad. Emma groaned. Worse. I sat at the wrong table. Talked to a total stranger for an hour before realizing it. And get this, he was nice. Maybe it was meant to be, Lila said with a wink. Emma laughed weakly. Right, because fairy tales start with humiliation. That afternoon, rain began to fall over the city, and Emma left work early to catch the subway. As she stepped outside, a sleek black car pulled up to the curb. A driver in a dark suit rolled down the window. Miss Brooks? He asked. Emma froze. Yes? Mr. Parker would like to speak with you. He handed her a sealed envelope with the Parker Technologies logo embossed in silver. She frowned, clutching it to her chest as the car drove away. Inside was a formal letter written in precise handwriting. Miss Brooks, I owe you an apology for last night. I enjoyed our conversation, even if it began by mistake. Would you allow me the chance to make it right? Dinner, 7 p.m., at Brooks Bistro. L.P. Her heart raced. Liam Parker. The name felt familiar, like she had heard it on the news, but she shrugged off the thought. Probably just another businessman. She told herself she would not go. She had rent due, shifts to cover, and no room for more embarrassment. Yet when the clock neared 7, she found herself standing outside Brooks Bistro in the drizzle, clutching her sketchbook for comfort. The same warm lights glowed through the windows. She almost turned away, but then the door opened and he was there. Liam, tall, calm, the same quiet smile. You came, he said softly. I was not sure I should, she admitted. Then I am glad you did. They sat near the back, the same spot where fate had misdirected them days before. Conversation came easier this time. He asked about her art, her dreams, her favorite place to draw. She spoke about the park near her apartment, where she sketched street musicians and strangers on benches. When she asked about his work, he kept it vague again. Technology development, mostly management now. I bet you are good at it, she said. You listen more than you talk. That is rare. He smiled. Maybe I'm just learning to listen better. Outside, the rain grew heavier, blurring the glass. Inside, something unspoken started to take root. After dinner, he walked her to the subway. The street shimmered with reflections, the city humming softly around them. Thank you for the meal, she said. You did not have to do this. I wanted to, he replied. You reminded me what honesty feels like. Emma tilted her head. You say that like you do not hear it often. He looked away, the corner of his mouth tightening. In my world, people choose their words carefully, sometimes too carefully. For a moment, silence hung between them, thick and fragile. Then her phone buzzed with a message from her landlord. Rent overdue. Final notice. Her smile faltered. Everything all right? Liam asked gently. Just life, she said, forcing a laugh. It gets expensive fast. He studied her face for a long moment, something shifting in his eyes, an idea forming. What if I told you there was a way to fix that? Emma blinked. What do you mean? Liam hesitated, rain dripping from his hair. You might think I am crazy, but I need someone to help me with a personal matter. It would involve pretending to be my fiancé for a short period. Strictly professional. She stared at him, stunned. You are serious? Completely. I will explain everything tomorrow. Just think about it. Before she could answer, he stepped back into the rain, disappearing into the blur of city lights, leaving Emma speechless under her umbrella. That night, as thunder rolled over Manhattan, she lay awake in her small apartment, staring at the letter on her nightstand. Pretend to be his fiancée. The words sounded insane, but so did the way her heart had raced when he said them. The next day dawned gray and heavy with fog. Emma could hardly focus during her morning shift at the cafe. Liam's words replayed in her mind like a broken record. Pretend to be my fiancé. Strictly professional. Every time she tried to reason with herself, her pulse quickened. It was absurd, something out of a movie. Yet the sincerity in his voice last night had felt real. At noon, her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Meet me at Parker Tower, 3 p.m. LP. Her breath caught. She typed a reply, deleted it, then finally tucked the phone away. Curiosity beat fear. By mid-afternoon, she stood in front of the towering glass building that bore his name in silver. The lobby alone looked like a different universe, polished marble floors, a massive art installation hanging from the ceiling, employees gliding past in sleek suits. When she gave her name at reception, the woman at the desk smiled politely. Mr. Parker is expecting you. Moments later, Emma found herself in an elevator that rose silently to the top floor. Her reflection in the mirrored walls looked foreign, nervous, small, but strangely hopeful. Liam met her at his office door. Today he looked different. No suit jacket, sleeves rolled up, a quiet confidence that filled the room. I was not sure you would come, he said. I am not sure I should have, she replied. He gestured toward the panoramic view behind him. Sometimes, when you spend years building things up here, he said, you forget what it feels like to live down there. She followed his gaze, the city sprawling endlessly below. You make it sound lonely. It can be, he admitted, then turned back to her. That is why I asked you here. Liam walked to his desk and handed her a folder. Inside was a formal document stamped with legal seals. Emma's eyes widened as she read the heading, Temporary Engagement Agreement. I am attending a series of business events this quarter, he explained. Investors expect stability. The board has hinted that being engaged would make the company look secure. Emma blinked. So you want me to play the part? Yes, for 30 days. You would attend 3 events with me, follow a few simple guidelines, and maintain the illusion in public. After that, the contract ends, and you are compensated fairly. Her fingers brushed over the clause that listed the payment more than she could earn in 2 years of waitressing. She could pay her rent, fix her mother's car, maybe even start that art class for neighborhood kids she kept dreaming about. This is insane, she murmured. I know, he said softly, but I also know you could use a fresh start. And I trust you, Emma. She lifted her eyes to his. Why me? Because you looked at me last night like I was just a man, he said quietly. Not a CEO, not a name, just a person. For a long moment, silence filled the office. Then she took a slow breath. All right, I will do it. A flicker of relief crossed his face. Thank you. My lawyer will finalize the paperwork this afternoon. Claire will help you with wardrobe, etiquette, and scheduling. Wardrobe. You cannot show up at a charity gala in a coffee-stained apron, he said with a teasing half-smile. Later that evening, Emma followed Claire through the vast halls of Liam's penthouse. The place felt more like an art gallery than a home modern lines, glass, and stillness. Claire handed her a glass of water and a small binder labeled Rules of Engagement. Rule number 1, Claire began, flipping a page. No personal relationships outside of this arrangement. Rule number 2, all public appearances are pre-approved. Rule number 3, no physical affection unless required by the setting. Emma raised an eyebrow. Required by the setting? Occasional hand-holding, maybe a kiss for photographers, Claire said briskly. It is all for optics. Emma's cheeks flushed. Of course. When Liam entered the room a moment later, he caught her expression and smiled faintly. Do not worry. This will not be complicated. Just pretend we like each other. Pretend, she echoed, her voice barely above a whisper. Over the next few days, preparation consumed her world. Fittings, etiquette sessions, table manners, even mock interviews with Liam's publicist. She learned how to walk in heels without tripping and how to smile just enough for the cameras. During one rehearsal, Liam adjusted her posture gently. His hand brushed her shoulder, and a spark of awareness shot through her. She pulled back quickly. You are serious about every detail, huh? I have to be, he said, stepping away. People watch everything I do. Oh? That night, alone in her small apartment, Emma flipped through the binder again. At the bottom of the last page, written in Liam's handwriting, was one final line not typed by the lawyer, rule number 4. Do not fall in love. She stared at the words for a long time. The edges of her mouth lifted in disbelief. Too late to warn me, she whispered to herself. Meanwhile, across the city, Liam stood on his balcony overlooking the lights. In his hand, he held the second copy of the contract. His gaze drifted to her signature at the bottom, neat and cautious. He told himself this was business, a transaction, a means to an end. But as the night breeze carried the faint sound of laughter from the street below, Liam realized that something about this arrangement was already slipping beyond his control. The following week moved like a dream Emma could barely process. One moment she was pouring coffee for strangers. The next, she was standing in front of full-length mirrors while a stylist pinned the hem of an evening gown worth more than her yearly rent. Every day brought new lessons, new rehearsals, new rules. Claire, ever efficient, oversaw everything. Remember, smile gently. Tilt your chin slightly when photographers approach. And for heaven's sake, do not fidget with your hands, she instructed. Emma nodded, her heart hammering as she practiced curtsying to imaginary reporters. Across the room, Liam watched quietly, arms crossed, eyes thoughtful. He had expected this to feel mechanical, just another corporate exercise, but watching her transform was something else. Her movements were still a little awkward, but her sincerity made them beautiful. Later that afternoon, he called her over. You are doing well, he said. Emma laughed softly. I almost tripped on the carpet twice. That makes you human, Liam replied. The boardroom could use a bit of that. His tone was teasing, but his eyes lingered on her longer than he meant to. He looked away first, clearing his throat. Tomorrow is the first event, the charity gala for the education fund. It will be crowded, cameras everywhere. You just have to stand beside me, smile, and act natural. Act natural while pretending to be your fiancé, she said with a faint grin. Sure, easy. The next evening, the world seemed to slow as their car pulled up to the gala. The entrance glittered under golden light. Dozens of photographers waited behind velvet ropes. Emma's palms were slick with sweat. Liam noticed and offered his hand. Deep breath, he said quietly. She hesitated before placing her hand in his. The warmth steadied her heartbeat. Together they stepped out of the car, greeted instantly by a storm of flashing lights and shouting voices. Mr. Parker, over here! Who is the lucky lady? Liam smiled politely, keeping Emma close. This is Emma Brooks, he announced evenly. My fiancée. Her knees nearly buckled, but she smiled through it, the noise blurring into a bright haze. Inside, chandeliers sparkled like stars above a sea of elegant gowns and tuxedos. Waiters glided by with trays of champagne. You are doing great, Liam murmured as they took their seats at the head table. Tell that to my heart, she whispered. It is trying to escape. He chuckled quietly, something soft crossing his expression. Halfway through dinner, a woman in a diamond necklace leaned over. Miss Brooks, we have heard so much about you. How did you two meet? Emma froze. This was not in the script. Liam started to speak, but she raised a hand gently. We met by accident, she said, her voice steady. I sat at the wrong table on a blind date. The table went silent for a second before the woman burst out laughing. How romantic. Oh. Liam's mouth curved into a smile. It was. The best mistake either of us ever made. The story rippled through the room. Laughter, warmth, and curiosity followed them the entire evening. Cameras captured every glance, every touch, every smile. For once, Emma forgot it was all an act. When Liam leaned in to whisper a joke about the mayor's speech, she laughed genuinely, her head tipping toward him. After the event ended, they slipped away from the crowd, stepping into the quiet night outside the ballroom. Rain misted the pavement, and the city lights shimmered on the wet street. I cannot believe I survived that, Emma said, exhaling. You did more than survive, Liam replied. You owned the night. She turned to face him, eyes reflecting the soft glow of a street lamp. You mean we owned it? Together? Something in her tone made him pause. For a heartbeat, neither of them spoke. The tension between them shifted no longer awkward, but electric. Then Liam looked away, forcing a smile. You should rest. Tomorrow will be busy. She nodded, though her heart ached unexpectedly at the distance in his voice. Over the next few days, headlines exploded online. The mystery fiancé of tech billionaire Liam Parker. From coffee cups to champagne. Who is Emma Brooks? Photos of them at the gala flooded social media. Emma's phone buzzed constantly, but she barely looked. One evening, she found Liam in the study, staring at the glowing skyline through the glass wall. "They love you," he said without turning. "The board is pleased. The investors are calmer. It worked." "It worked," she repeated quietly. "That is good, right?" Liam turned toward her. "Yes, that is what we wanted." But the look in his eyes said something else, something neither dared to name. That night, Emma returned to her apartment, unable to sleep. She pulled her sketchbook from her bag. The first page still held the pencil outline of that fateful restaurant table, table 7. She added a few strokes. A man in a suit looking across the table, a faint smile on his face. At the bottom, she wrote, "The beginning of everything false that started to feel true." Across the city, in his penthouse, Liam stared at his phone. He typed a message, "You were amazing tonight," then deleted it. He set the phone down, whispering into the empty room, "Rule number 4. Ugh. He looked out over the sleeping city, wondering when pretending had started to hurt this much. Days turned into weeks, and Emma's life blurred between two worlds. By day, she was still the same girl who took the subway and packed instant noodles for lunch. By night, she was Emma Brooks, the elegant fiancée of a tech billionaire. The contrast was dizzying. Every event, every camera flash, every handshake pulled her deeper into a story that was supposed to be make-believe. But somewhere between pretending and breathing, it began to feel real. Her phone buzzed one morning. A message from Liam. "Charity board dinner tonight. Wear something you love." She smiled to herself. He used to say, "Something appropriate." Now it was, "Something you love." Maybe he had changed too. At the dinner, Emma moved gracefully beside him, the rhythm of her steps matching his. She had grown used to the way he glanced at her before answering questions, as if silently asking for her cue. They had become a team. When the evening ended, they escaped to the balcony overlooking the city. The music from inside faded into a gentle hum. "You handled them beautifully," Liam said, leaning against the railing. "I handled them because you were there," she replied. He smiled. "You give me too much credit." "Maybe not enough," she said softly. Rain began to fall in a light drizzle. Neither of them moved. Their eyes met, and for the first time he did not look away. The air thickened between them. Liam reached for her hand, his thumb brushing her skin, hesitant but sincere. "Emma," he said quietly, "this was supposed to be business." She searched his face, her voice barely a whisper. "Then why does it not feel like business anymore?" He did not answer. Instead, he stepped closer. The distance vanished, replaced by something fragile and undeniable. Their lips met slow, uncertain, and impossibly real. When they parted, Emma's heart raced. "We just broke rule number 4, she murmured. Liam's smile was soft but unguarded. Then maybe it was a bad rule. For a few perfect seconds, they forgot the world existed. But outside the glass doors, the world had already noticed. A photographer at the event had captured their kiss, and within hours, it spread across every social feed and business channel in the country. By morning, the news had exploded. Liam Parker's secret fiancée true love or corporate stunt. At Parker Tower, the board meeting was tense. Liam stood at the head of the table while older men in suits whispered and exchanged glances. "You have compromised the company's image," one director said sharply. "This engagement is now a distraction. Investors are asking questions." "I told you," Liam replied evenly. "This is my personal life, not a marketing strategy." "Then make it clear," another said. "End it publicly before it costs us deals." Liam's jaw tightened. "I will not make a public spectacle of her." After the meeting, Claire approached him quietly. "You need to talk to her before this gets worse." He nodded, already reaching for his phone. Across the city, Emma sat in her apartment, staring at her own reflection on the television screen. News anchors replayed the same photograph again and again. The image showed Liam's hand on her cheek, her eyes closed, the city lights behind them. It looked like love, but the captions called it scandal. When her doorbell rang, she knew who it was before she opened it. Liam stood there, exhausted, rain soaking through his coat. "I am sorry," he said simply. "For what?" she asked, though her voice trembled. "For not protecting you fast enough. The board wants me to issue a statement. They want me to say it was all an act." Emma's heart dropped. "And what do you want to say?" He hesitated, pain flickering across his face. "I want to tell the truth. But if I do, they will use it against both of us." "So you will lie to save them," she said quietly. "To save you," he corrected. She shook her head. Do not protect me by pretending I never mattered. He stepped closer, reaching for her hand, but she pulled away. Liam, this was supposed to be pretend. Maybe it should stay that way. Emma, please. No, she whispered, tears burning her eyes. You said this would end when the contract ended. Let us just end it now. For a moment, he stood there in silence, the city noise echoing faintly below. Then he nodded, his voice barely audible. If that is what you want. Oh. When the door closed behind him, Emma collapsed onto the couch, clutching her sketchbook to her chest. The rain outside turned heavier, blurring the world into streaks of silver and gray. The next day, a press release went out. Mr. Liam Parker and Miss Emma Brooks have mutually agreed to end their engagement. The media moved on quickly, but for Emma, the silence that followed was unbearable. She deleted her photos, packed away the dresses, and returned to the cafe. Customers came and went, unaware that the girl behind the counter had once danced under chandeliers beside a millionaire. Meanwhile, in his penthouse, Liam sat at his desk, staring at the empty chair across from him. The world called it a contract, a performance, a lie. But he knew better. It had been the most honest thing he had ever felt. He reached for his phone again, typed a message. You once said fairy tales start with humiliation. Maybe they also end with courage. And then he pressed delete. Outside, thunder rolled over the city. Two hearts, miles apart, wondered the same thing, if something that started as a lie could still find its way back to truth. Weeks passed, but the city did not slow down for heartbreak. New headlines replaced the old ones. The public forgot the story of the billionaire and the waitress, but the two people at the center of it could not forget each other. Emma tried to convince herself that it had all been for the best. She went back to double shifts at the cafe, sketching customers on napkins during quiet hours. Yet every time the doorbell chimed, her heart leaped, expecting to see him standing there. But it was never Liam. She began volunteering at a small community art center nearby, teaching children how to paint. The work grounded her, gave her purpose. Each afternoon, she would stay late, cleaning brushes long after everyone had gone home. Sometimes she caught her own reflection in the studio window and almost did not recognize the woman staring back a little stronger, a little sadder, but not broken. One rainy afternoon, Claire walked in. Her polished heels clicked on the paint-splattered floor. Miss Brooks, she greeted gently. It has been a while. Emma froze, unsure what to say. If this is about returning the dress, I already sent it back. Claire shook her head. This is not about the dress. Liam asked me to deliver something. She handed over a flat envelope sealed in silver wax. Inside was a single sheet of paper and a business card embossed with Parker Foundation. Emma unfolded the letter. Dear Emma, the Education Fund Gala raised $3 million. I have decided to open a permanent scholarship program for young artists in your name, the Emma Brooks Art Initiative. It will give underprivileged kids a chance to paint their own future, the way you once dreamed of. You inspired it. Thank you. Liam. Emma's throat tightened as she read the signature. She looked up at Claire. Why are you showing me this? Because he wanted you to know that it was never a game, Claire said quietly. He is leaving New York tomorrow. He is stepping down from the board and moving overseas for a new project. Emma blinked, stunned. He is leaving everything? Claire nodded. He says some things are not worth keeping if they cost you the truth. Enda. That night, Emma sat on her small balcony with the letter in her hands. Rain tapped the railing softly. Her sketchbook lay open beside her, showing a half-finished drawing of a man looking out over a city skyline. She whispered to the empty air, You kept your promise, Liam. You gave something back. The next morning, she took the subway to the Parker Foundation headquarters. The security guard recognized her instantly and called upstairs. A few minutes later, she stood once again in the same glass office where everything had started. Liam turned from the window when he heard her footsteps. Emma, he said, surprise flickering across his face. I did not think I would see you again. She held up the letter. You named a scholarship after me. Why? He exhaled slowly. Because you reminded me what matters. When this all began, I thought I was buying a solution. I was wrong. I found something I could never own. Ugh. She took a cautious step forward. You could have told me that instead of disappearing. I thought walking away was the right thing, he said. You deserved peace, not a scandal. She smiled faintly, tears gathering in her eyes. Peace feels empty without purpose. And I think purpose sometimes looks a lot like you. He laughed softly, shaking his head. You always know how to ruin my logic. Someone has to. The silence that followed felt lighter than before. Liam took a hesitant step closer. I am leaving for London tonight. The new branch opens there next month. Emma's hands tightened around the envelope. Then why am I here, Liam? To say goodbye? Maybe to ask one more question, he said. If the contract had never existed, if none of it had been pretend, would you have still chosen me? She met his gaze steadily. I think I already did, long before the papers were signed. For the first time in months, Liam's smile reached his eyes. Then maybe I should not leave just yet. Before either of them could say another word, a knock interrupted them. Claire stepped in, holding a tablet. Mr. Parker, the press is waiting downstairs for your farewell statement. Liam looked at Emma. Do you mind? She shook her head. Go. Say what you need to say. Minutes later, Emma stood at the back of the conference room as Liam faced the reporters. Cameras clicked, lights flashed, but his voice was steady. Today marks a new chapter, he said. Not just for this company, but for me. I have learned that success without integrity is failure, and love built on truth is the only kind worth keeping. The room erupted in applause. Emma felt tears blur her vision. When Liam's eyes found hers across the crowd, he gave the smallest, almost imperceptible nod, an unspoken promise that their story was not over. Outside, as they stepped into the sunlight together, Emma smiled for the first time in weeks. The world still whispered their names, but she no longer cared. For the first time since that night at the restaurant, she was not pretending. And somewhere between the flash of cameras and the rush of the crowd, Liam leaned close and whispered, Rule number 4 is officially broken. Emma laughed through her tears. Then let us rewrite the rules. Hand in hand, they walked down the marble steps, into a future neither of them had planned, but both of them were finally ready to choose. A week later, the world finally quieted down. The tabloids had moved on to new scandals, and Parker Technologies was steady again under Liam's leadership. But for him, the real shift had nothing to do with headlines or board meetings. It was the quiet moments, coffee at the art center, evening walks with Emma through Central Park that started to feel like home. Their relationship was no longer hidden behind contracts or fake smiles. There were no rules left to follow, no roles to play. Yet even as things seemed peaceful, both knew that life did not pause for happiness. The world had a way of testing what was real. One afternoon, Emma arrived at the foundation to drop off sketches for the scholarship program. She found the office buzzing with tension. Staff members whispered in corners, screens flashed with urgent emails, and Claire looked unusually pale. What is going on? Emma asked. Claire handed her a report. A security breach. Someone leaked internal documents from the foundation. They are trying to claim the art initiative was just a front for money laundering. Emma's heart sank. That is not true. I know, Claire said, but the press is spinning it fast. Liam is in a meeting trying to handle it. Without waiting, Emma hurried down the hallway and opened the boardroom door. Liam was standing at the head of the table, surrounded by advisors, his jaw tight. When he saw her, he dismissed the room with a glance. Emma, you should not be here, he said quietly. I heard what happened, she replied. Tell me what I can do. He rubbed his temples. There is nothing you can do. They want a scapegoat, and I will not let them drag your name into it. But it is my name on the scholarship, she said, voice trembling. If I stay silent, they will think it is true. Then they will think what they want, Liam said. My job is to protect you. She stepped closer, her eyes steady. No, Liam, not this time. I will protect what we built. The children, the art center, it matters more than our reputations. For a moment, he just looked at her, pride and fear warring behind his expression. Then he nodded slowly. All right, we face it together. That evening, they held a live press conference. Cameras filled the room once again, flashing like lightning. Emma took a deep breath as she stood beside Liam. Her hands shook, but her voice did not. The Emma Brooks Art Initiative is real, she began. Every dollar goes to children who would never have the chance to learn otherwise. I was a waitress once. I know what it is like to dream of something more. This foundation is not a lie, it is a promise. The room fell silent. Then, applause spread through the crowd. Liam stepped forward, his voice calm and strong. Integrity is not about being flawless. It is about standing up when the world questions your truth, and I am proud to stand beside her. When the conference ended, reporters followed them outside. but neither cared anymore. They stood on the steps of the foundation as the sun set behind the skyline, painting the sky in shades of gold and rose. Emma turned to him with a quiet smile. "We really are good at breaking rules." Liam laughed softly. "Then maybe we should make a new one, never stop fighting for what is real." She nodded. "Deal." As the cameras flashed one last time, they faced the city together, no longer pretending, no longer afraid, ready for whatever came next. The following morning, sunlight spilled through the tall windows of the foundation's atrium. Reporters had already left, and the world seemed to exhale after a storm that had finally passed. For the first time in weeks, everything was still. Emma stood in front of the new exhibit in the lobby paintings created by children from the art program. Colors burst across the canvases, messy but full of life. She smiled, touching the small brass plaque below one painting that read, "Dream Big," signed by the students of the Emma Brooks Art Initiative. Liam appeared behind her, holding 2 cups of coffee. "You missed breakfast again," he said gently. She turned, accepting the cup with a small laugh. "I forgot. These kids' art keeps me here for hours." "I know," he said, his gaze softening. "You saved them. You saved me too." Emma shook her head. "No, we saved each other." They walked through the quiet hallways together. The tension that had once filled the building was gone, replaced by the hum of renewal. Staff greeted them warmly, smiles genuine now that the foundation's name had been cleared. As they reached Liam's office, she noticed the familiar folder sitting on his desk, the original contract, the one that had started everything. She picked it up and flipped through the pages, her fingers tracing the faded ink of her signature. "Do you ever think about how crazy it was?" she asked. "Every day," he said, leaning against the desk. "But I do not regret a second of it." She smiled. "Even the rules?" "Especially the rules," he replied, "because breaking them led me to you." A quiet laugh escaped her lips. She closed the folder and handed it to him. "Then maybe it is time we end this story the right way." Liam frowned slightly. "What do you mean?" "I mean," she said, stepping closer, "let us make something real to replace the fake." For a heartbeat, he simply stared at her, unsure if he had heard correctly. Then realization dawned, soft and overwhelming. "Emma, are you saying what I think you are saying?" She met his gaze, her eyes steady but glistening. "I am saying that if you still want a fiancé, this time I would like to be the one who asks." Liam's breath caught. He took the folder from her hand, placed it aside, and pulled her into his arms. "For once," he whispered, "I am happy to break tradition." They stood there for a long moment, surrounded by the quiet hum of the city outside, the smell of coffee and paint lingering in the air. Later that afternoon, the foundation hosted a small event to celebrate its reopening. Guests gathered around the new exhibit, unaware of what was about to happen. As the crowd applauded the children's art, Liam stepped forward, taking the microphone. "There is one more thing I would like to add," he said, his voice steady but warm. "Every great story begins with a mistake. Mine began when a woman sat at the wrong table. That mistake gave me purpose, and it gave me love." Gasps rippled through the audience as he turned to Emma, pulling a small velvet box from his pocket. "Emma Brooks, will you make this official?" Her hands flew to her mouth as tears filled her eyes. "Yes," she whispered. Applause erupted. The children cheered, and flashes from cameras painted the room in light. But for Liam and Emma, there was only stillness, the calm certainty of 2 people who had already lived through every storm and chosen each other anyway. As he slipped the ring onto her finger, Emma smiled through her tears. "You know what this means, right?" Liam laughed softly. Rule number 4 never stood a chance. And as the audience clapped around them, they sealed their story not with contracts, not with secrets, but with something the world could finally see was true. A year later, the city felt different. The world still spun at its usual pace, traffic roaring, people rushing, but for Liam and Emma, everything had slowed into something steady and real. The Parker Foundation had grown beyond anything either of them imagined. The art initiative expanded across several states, giving thousands of children a space to create, to dream, and to be seen. Emma's sketches hung in every classroom, small reminders that beauty could come from struggle. Liam, once defined by numbers and boardrooms, now spent his mornings visiting those same schools, learning the names of kids who painted with the same wonder that had once saved him. That afternoon, the foundation hosted an anniversary exhibition. The halls glowed with color murals, laughter, the scent of fresh paint. Emma moved through the crowd, her wedding band glinting under the warm light. When she reached the end of the gallery, she stopped. A new installation stood in the center, a life-sized recreation of a restaurant table, Table 7. On it sat 2 coffee cups, a folded napkin, and a small brass plaque engraved with the words, "The best mistake we ever made." Her eyes filled with tears. She turned to see Liam standing behind her, hands in his pockets, smiling that same quiet smile from their first night. "You did this?" she asked softly. He nodded. "You once said every dream starts somewhere. I thought we should remember where ours began." She stepped closer, emotion catching in her throat. "We really came a long way from pretending." Liam brushed a strand of hair from her face. "We stopped pretending the moment you walked into the wrong table. I just needed time to realize it." They stood there as the crowd moved around them, a gentle hum of voices and music filling the air. For a moment, it felt like the world had folded back into that very first evening, warm lights, soft laughter, 2 people who had no idea that fate had already chosen for them. As the night drew to a close, Liam raised his glass for a quiet toast. "To mistakes," he said. Emma lifted hers, smiling. "To second chances." "Who?" Their glasses touched, and the sound rang out like a promise. Outside, the city lights shimmered, reflecting on the gallery windows like stars. And as the music played softly behind them, Emma whispered, "Sometimes, the wrong table can lead you exactly where you are meant to be." Liam smiled, taking her hand. "Always." "Huh?" And in that simple word, always, their story finally found its ending. Not the perfect fairy tale, but something better, real love, built from honesty, kindness, and the courage to begin again.